Hello everyone, it's Monday, April 16th. I want to give an update on our plants here. There's been a great deal of interest on Instagram about the density in which the plants are planted in here. And the bok choy are ready to be harvested now because they're starting to compete with our tomatoes for space. Or actually, the tomatoes are having to compete with the bok choy for space now. Hello everyone, it's Tuesday, April 24th, and this is how our garden is looking today. Since our last update, we harvested away 12 bok choy plants from this raised bed here, and in the space that the bok choy previously occupied, we sowed in some cow peas, so we'll see if they'll come out. In the meantime, we still have our Roma tomatoes, and in the front we have some French bush beans. These are the haricots verts. They're really tasty. Our evening sunflowers are starting to show some of the flower buds, and in between them are some zinnias. And on this back side here we have some Chinese kale, gailan, and they're ready to be harvested. We have 5 plants in this planter. If you'll notice that most of the leaves are free of holes, it's been nice. Our bok choy didn't have any holes either, and it's been nice that there hasn't been caterpillars. But it's starting to warm up, and we're starting to see some holes in some of the other plants. So that means it's time to start inspecting the plants for caterpillars and such. So if we back up a little bit, we have some purple bok choy to show you. As far as this plant being a practical plant, it seems like it doesn't grow as quickly as the heirloom varieties like this bok choy here. And additionally, the germination rates on these hybrid ones are not as great as the heirloom. So this is a fun one to grow, but not one to grow if you really need a reliable staple green. We have some peppers in this bed. So these are the various varieties. I guess I'll go and get some details here. This is the Thunder Mountain. I thought there was more of a, I thought it was Johnny Thunder or something. I guess, yeah, Thunder Mountain Longhorn. And then this one is the Keystone Giant. This one's an Aleppo Pepper. These two over here are the Ancho peppers. We have watermelon. I think a few varieties of watermelon here. And this one is starting to vine out. In this bed here are San Marzano tomatoes, and it just occurred to me recently that these are pole tomatoes. I thought they were bush tomatoes because the original plan was just like the Romas that we saw in the other bed, was to let them grow and then they'll hopefully drape over and grow our tomatoes that way. Dripping over bush tomatoes in a raised bed has worked out well in the past, but yeah, these are indeterminate or pole tomatoes, so we're gonna have to stake them. I've started to sucker them since they're pole tomatoes, so we're gonna start suckering them. I guess you can also let them grow as a bush, I suppose, but that kind of defeats the purpose of this variety. Some other zinnias in here, and then in between are San Marzano tomatoes. These are peas, and this variety is specifically for if you wanted to grow it as a pea shoot, for pea shoots. So we're gonna let it grow to about 2 feet, and then we're gonna pinch it off, and then it'll start bushing out, and then we'll start pinching off all the growth. So We have the peas here. I think it's a Japanese heirloom variety, and the spelling is U-S-U-I, so I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce that. In between our tomatoes and using the plants as shade, we have Bloomsdale spinach. So the other thing that we like to do here is to grow greens year-round, and in particular greens that will bolt if it gets too warm. So we have various strategies that we're trying out to get continuous greens. So for instance, with the gailan and the bok choy, with the weather warming up, we may not be able to plant it in these exposed raised beds, so we'll have to find cooler places around the backyard where we get morning sun and afternoon shade and maybe late evening sun, or we'll have to tuck it under plants. So be on the lookout for that if you happen to catch future updates on our gardens. Pay particular attention to where we're growing our greens with respect to the climate. Well, I'll come back and pick off the rest of these suckers at a later time. Let's swing over and look at our other plants that we have here. This is the red Seneca stalker corn. This is a corn that is not sweet, so it's one that we're growing for the first time. We have other ones growing elsewhere. This was sowed very early in the season, but they're growing for their ornamental coloring. It's a really dark stalk, and the corn itself will look really nice, so we're looking forward to that. Our kale is starting to really look nice since the update. I think it's because we gave it enough water, so it's starting to fill out. Along the greenhouse are some Asian wing beans, so they're going to be grown. We'll have to find a way to trellis them along the side of the greenhouse. And that's a red avocado, if you didn't catch it the last time. We have a spare tomato plant, so this was planted here. I forget what variety that is. The tag's somewhere around here. And then another spare tomato that's planted there as well. I think the idea is to let them, these are pole tomatoes, so I think the idea is just to let them grow wild as an illustration on how they do if you don't sucker them. Our Satsuma orange, you can see all the white blossoms on it. And then down below we have some kind of squash. I think it's a Lakota squash. I planted something around, sowed something around here, and then a second plant popped up. So I'm not sure if this is a volunteer plant and some mystery plant, or if this is actually a Lakota squash. So we have a decision that we're going to make on this video. Do we keep the unknown plant that's bigger, or do we go with something that's more sure of what we sowed? Because we need to get one out because there's not room for both. I think we'll keep the bigger plant and see what it is. In this little space here, or between the corn, I'm pretty certain this is a Lakota squash because I threw some seeds down there. Since the last update, this little space here is a little more clear. We had a couple of broccoli plants that we were waiting on. They look like this, but we needed the space. I thought we were going to plant tomatoes, but then the plan was changed, so now it's open. This is a parsley plant that we're waiting on for seeds, so once we get some seeds, we can remove that. We had planted down some root-bound paprika peppers, so we'll see if these guys will spring back from the root-boundness, if that's a word. Maybe not, but it's worth a shot. And over there, on this raised bed, our cucumbers are coming along, and we have more of the haricot vert bush beans in between. This is the Kentucky Wonder bush bean, and then the evening sun sunflower that we saw in the first planter. They make flowers that look like this. Most interestingly this year, the ones that are grown here are starting to point straight up at the sky, and I think sunflowers follow they flower at the direction where there's where the sun is most intense. So I'm gonna speak a little bit louder. I guess it's starting to be rush hour here at LAX, so the planes are gonna come by. So please excuse that. We have down here some more Roma tomatoes, and these were once again sowed a lot earlier than these ones. So we're getting the blossoms now, and we're gonna keep an eye on them and see how they stand. If they need help with support, we'll come in and provide some support. So maybe some stakes down and then tie a string so that they can lean up against the string. If you're curious about this, this is a Spanish, I think it's the round black Spanish. It's a black skinned radish. It's starting to make flowers, so they're always fun to see. The camera's not picking it up, but the way the light shines, you get these, the little flowers here, it kind of glows. They're like Christmas lights. So they're not very big this time, so we're gonna get them for seeds. And let's see, is there anything interesting over here? The mulberry continue to grow. We're waiting for them to actually get ripened all the way. I think it's still pretty cool in the year, and some of them are just are ripening at the tip, and then that part gets overly ripened while the rest is not. So we're still waiting for the one to ripen. We got our O'Neill blueberry that's ready to be tested soon. And that's what we have growing as of April 24th. Thanks for coming out and joining me in the garden. And until the next video, have a really nice day. If you're into succulents, since the last video, it's starting to grow more greens, and we're seeing an official foliage formation here. It's unfurled, and it's ready to go and display itself. Over there are some of the plants that we received from Baker Creek and how they're doing. The sugarcane is looking real nice now. The leaves are looking super healthy. And then in the back, those are some dragon fruit